Everyone knows the friction of commercial travel, the crowded terminals, the long security lines, and the constant threat of a layover ruining your schedule. Buying a private jet seems like the logical escape, but the market is a steep ladder. A very light jet for regional hops starts around $3 million, while the ultra-long-range models capable of crossing oceans exceed $80 million. Most aspiring owners focus on that sticker price as the primary barrier to entry. In reality, that multi-million-dollar check is just the deposit. It represents an entry fee paid for the right to incur massive daily operational bills. The true financial challenge lies in surviving the inescapable daily cash burn required to keep the aircraft sitting on the tarmac. Even at 0 flight hours, the overhead is staggering. Renting covered space at a premium hub can cost over $100,000 a year, while insurance for a large jet can climb toward $500,000 annually. You also have to pay to keep qualified people on standby. A senior 2-pilot crew, plus training and benefits, costs roughly $200,000 a year, regardless of how often they actually fly you. Then there are the mandatory maintenance reserves. Keeping an aircraft legally airworthy typically requires an annual budget equal to 5 to 10% of the jet's total value. Between the hangar, insurance, crew, and maintenance, an owner can easily spend $1 million a year before the engines ever start. Buying a jet means assuming the total liabilities of a high-overhead, fixed-cost business. A second financial trapdoor opens the moment a new jet leaves the factory. Roughly 10 to 15% of the aircraft's value evaporates in the first 12 months. On an $80 million jet, you lose up to $12 million because the market knows a better version is coming next year. Many buyers target 6- or 7-year-old aircraft to avoid this initial drop, hoping to catch the plane after the steepest part of the depreciation curve has passed. However, pre-owned aircraft carry the weight of deferred maintenance. As a used jet ages, it creeps closer to mandatory, deep structural inspections. Skipping a proper pre-purchase inspection can lead to a catastrophic D-check. This single maintenance event can ground the plane for weeks and cost over $500,000. A private jet functions as a depreciating machine designed to consume capital. The only choice is whether you lose that money to depreciation upfront or to the repair bay later. Flying the plane adds a whole new layer of expense. Fuel alone runs between $1,100 and $2,700 per flight hour, depending on the size of the aircraft. Jet fuel prices are dictated by a global market sensitive to geopolitics. Conflict in an oil-producing region can send your operating costs soaring within weeks. A single bad year for fuel prices can wipe out the entire margin between owning your own plane and simply renting one. Some owners try to mitigate these costs by chartering their plane to others, but every hour of charter income is balanced against faster depreciation and a quicker climb toward the next $500,000 inspection. This leaves the owner's operational burn rate permanently exposed to external global forces they cannot predict or control. These harsh economics raise the question of why so many disciplined businesses still choose to buy these assets. The incentive often lies in the tax code. Current law allows owners to use bonus depreciation to deduct the entire purchase price against their taxable income in the first year. For a company sitting on a large taxable profit, this deduction can offset millions of dollars in tax liability in one stroke. This loophole effectively softens the blow of the initial purchase, turning an $80 million asset into something much more manageable after tax savings. This tax benefit explains why so many jet purchases happen near the end of a profitable fiscal year, making the acquisition as much about strategic tax positioning as it is about travel. Fractional ownership was developed to avoid these fixed cost risks. Instead of buying a whole plane, you buy a share and pay for a set number of guaranteed hours. Warren Buffett was a fractional customer before Berkshire Hathaway bought the company NetJets in 1998. Buffett later admitted that NetJets nearly went broke. Its unmoving fixed costs for crews and maintenance were constantly out of sync with unpredictable customer demand. Even with Berkshire's massive balance sheet, the business struggled to stabilize under the weight of its own overhead. If the rigid math of aviation threatened the world's most famous value investor, amateurs should be wary of assuming they can easily outsmart it. This comparison shows when ownership makes sense. Chartering has a steep hourly rate, but zero cost grounded. Ownership starts higher due to fixed costs, but its operating rate is lower. At 100 hours, ownership costs double that of chartering. Fixed overhead simply overwhelms usage. At this level, the owner pays a massive premium for the privilege of carrying a depreciating asset on their balance sheet. The math only flips once you fly over 150 to 200 hours a year. At 300 hours, you finally spread the fixed costs thin enough to beat the charter market. High volume is the only way to generate a true return on investment in private aviation. A private jet functions as a tool for converting money into time. Unless your schedule strictly demands that high flight volume, the aircraft remains an expensive subsidy for an underused asset.